Hello and welcome everybody to our program today, Engaging California Youth, the Future of Democracy. We will be featuring three groups of young league leaders from across California who are active in voter registration and community organizing. They'll be sharing their experiences, engaging their peers to become active participants in their communities. And I am excited to hear from them. But before we do that, I wanted to share just a few thoughts with you. Senator Andy Kim, he's the US Senator from New Jersey. He has a phrase that really resonates with me. You might remember Senator Kim. He's the senator who he was in the House of Representatives at the time, but he was the person that was cleaning up the Capitol building after the January 6th insurrection in 2021. Anyway, he likes to say that the opposite of democracy isn't autocracy, it's apathy. When enough people think that it's not worth engaging in their government and they throw up their hands and say, why bother? This is when corruption and autocrats can take hold. And this is why the work of the League is really so important to engage and educate voters and to hold our elected officials accountable. By doing this work, we draw people out of that apathy and into being active participants in our democracy. So I assume that most of you who are here tonight are League members, but if you aren't yet, or if you're watching the video, because we are recording this, and you aren't a League member, please consider joining. You can go to our website, which is lwvc.org, to join either your local league or you can join us at the state level also. Your dues alone support our work, and you can also make an additional donation on our website to actively support our work in protecting voters and restoring democracy. Before I turn things over to our first group of panelists, I want to highlight a few housekeeping rules. We are, as I said before, we're recording this panel. We will be highlighting the speakers mostly on camera, but if you don't want your camera or your face on the recording, you can mute your own camera. Please keep your audio also muted unless you're speaking. Assume there is positive intent from all participants. And finally, type your questions for the panelists into the chat. We're going to have a question and answer session during the second half of the program. So I am now going to turn things over to the Claremont colleges and Claremont High School representatives, and they will go through their presentation, and that is Fiona Wu, Alex Benash, and excuse me if I'm pronouncing any of these names incorrectly, Leanna Holden, and Annabelle Brusky.
Awesome. We're so excited to be here. Thank you so much. We'll just briefly introduce each one of us. I'm from the Legion of Voters at the high school chapter, and my name is Fiona Wu.
My name is Annabelle Brusky. I'm also from the Legion of Voters at the high school chapter.
And my name's Alex Benach. I'm from the Claremont Colleges chapter. I go to Pomona College.
And I'm Leanna Holden. I also attend Pomona College and I'm a member of the 5C League of Women Voters.
Amazing. If we could go on the next slide, please. Perfect. Okay, so we're so excited to talk a little bit about us to y'all and kind of share some of the kind of like nitty-gritty and some of the kind of interesting details that first kind of got us started. So we'll be first starting off with kind of a founding 101, a little bit more about how the high school chapter as well as the college chapter was founded. So for the high school chapter, we've called it the Legion of Voters just as a way to gauge more representation among all student members. But it was actually founded in 2023 during a summer that I actually ended up contacting the current president of the Claremont College League of Women Voters to initially start a voter registration. But I think what's always really interesting is that what started from just 2 initial emails and 1 in-person conversation over really good coffee, we actually end up building into something way more sustainable and also really intersected kind of our interest with voter registration and planning an actual mission building and a year-long initiative to encourage high schoolers to be part of something way more than just registering to vote, but also a lot of the civic engagement that we ended up starting with as a strong core mission. Passing it over to the 5C.
Hi, yeah. So as Fiona mentioned a little, our predecessors actually revived the club work. We had been around, but the club had been kind of dormant for some time. So some people had brought everything back. I personally joined the club through Club Fair, which we hold every year as freshmen coming in. And I had been previously knowledgeable about the league's work. I had worked with them for the past 3 or 4 years back home in Maine. And we've really enjoyed the work that we've been able to do. I also was able to bring in my close friend Alex, where we took over as executive board members shortly after, as the previous executive board went abroad.
Awesome. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and then so sort of getting into the successes and struggles that we've had as an organization, I can speak a bit to the 5C chapters. I think a major win that we've discovered is being in Claremont, which is right outside of LA, but as well associated or situated right next to a lot of other small municipalities. We've had a lot of success advocating in local governance structures, approaching elected representatives who are local and care about the issues in the same way that we do. As well, the 5Cs stand for the 5 colleges. The Claremont colleges are unique in that there's 5 undergraduate institutions all located within a mile of each other. This means that we have an engaged membership across all campuses with members from each institution, and that creates a network that is very easily expandable, meaning we can hold events across all of these campuses. We can tap into resources and networks on campuses that we might not otherwise. Leanna and I are both Pomona College students, but we have members and incoming executive board members of other colleges. As well, we've hosted a lot of popular events centered around civic engagement, whether that be voter registration drives or debate watch parties or Prop 50 talks, things of that nature. Students do come out when the topic is civic engagement, and people enjoy hearing about this topic and learning from it. But it's not as though we've been all roses in the rose garden. There has definitely been some struggles. One major struggle we've noticed has been motivating participation within the club. We get a lot of people interested. We get a lot of signups at Club Fair, as Leanna mentioned, but even getting people up to attend the meetings and to then motivate and work on the projects and initiatives that we're doing can be a struggle. So there has to be that sort of incentive and passion that we're so passionate about, as well, especially in the wake of the 2024 election. Both Leanna and I came into this club in 2024. There was a lot of electoral disillusionment with students across the colleges not feeling like electoral or civic engagement structures were there to make change and were there to meet their needs, and sort of combating that and seeing ways in which we can thrive in those spaces was still really important. As well, we go to liberal arts colleges with other students who are like-minded and who are equally passionate, but about various topics, meaning that students are busy, unable to make time, unable to find energy and bandwidth. So adapting to that and meeting students where they're at has been super important, has also been some sort of a learning curve for us.
And at the high school level, some of our wins has been really strong and consistent membership, as well as consistent partnership. So in our high school chapter, we're able to have a lot of really, I think one of the really unique part is being able to kind of like meet students where they're at, especially in a time where civic engagement is something that I feel like is really interesting as it's being moved ways into the school districts as well as the school curriculum. So one of the biggest initiatives and kind of building on the original founding of this high school chapter is really working with high schoolers to build kind of a youth-led idea in actually ensuring that their ideas are being heard at a level where they can have interest in participating civically. And one of the biggest wins that we're able to kind of have is because of the consistent partnership with like local areas, as well as just like the League of Women Voters support in general, we've been able to actually build like curriculum to actually register students and having curriculum that's student-led. So one of the largest wins that we've kind of had throughout the past 2 years is we were actually able to register over 1,000 high school students to pre-register to vote as well as register to vote. Because in California, if you're over 16, we have the amazing opportunity of being pre-registered to vote. And what part of this is that because we're centralized in the high school level, we're actually be able to have a lot of consistent partnerships with like areas and have student communication, work with other local districts, even without kind of like outside of our local Legion area. And part of that is really building connection and allowing high school students to thrive in that aspect. But apart from that, we're also able to have some of our wins with a lot of the local events that we're able to help support alongside all the Claremont chapter with the League of Women Voters emphasis on local events from Village Venture to also the Lush Fair, like voter registration booth. We've been able to have a significant amount of members come out and be interested in a lot of these local events and actual feel buy-in when it comes to like high school students feeling excited to talk about civic engagement and excited to talk about voting. Because I'm gonna be honest, if you know anything about like cosmetic products and Lush, that will get any high schooler out. But apart from that, along with some of the wins, we've also faced some hurdles when it comes to maintaining year-long membership, as well as the consistency on opportunities because of the seasons and as well as like academics, especially with high school students. It's been interesting balancing between these. And something else is also the administrative obstacles. So when it comes to the high school level, there kind of needs to be more oversight when it comes to having students come out for events that are school sanctioned, but are partially not school sanctioned, such as club events. So we face some sort of difficulty when it comes to administrative obstacles, and it's something that we're consistently trying to build towards to ensure a better stream flow in the future as well.
Yeah, and next up, sort of looking at the tangible aspects of what we have done in our time as League of Women Voters on the Claremont colleges. One major thing that we hit all the time is voter registration. A lot of freshmen come into college not being registered, not knowing how they can request mail-in ballots for being at college in a state away from their home state. So voter registration drives always end up in huge amounts of students getting registered to vote. We have an annual event that we like to put on called Vote Fest, in which we invite other civically minded organizations such as Bridge and Every Vote Counts to sort of table and work. And we're all developing this motivation to get students engaged with voter registration and voter advocacy in general. We also bring in a shaved ice truck so that attracts students generally. A pro tip is that free food will attract students. Teach-ins is another thing that we've really hammered in, especially following the 2024 election. We've focused a lot on advocacy and issue-based work, teach-ins on such things such as the SAVE Act and SNAP, national things going on that are really impactful at the local level, advocating with our students, doing phone banking, letter writing in that way. As well, we've hosted informative talks, such as inviting professors and experts to speak on issues local to California, such as Prop 50. And we have one coming up about the recent initiatives to get Vote 16 implemented in LA. So that's super exciting. Another informal event that we've started doing as a series this semester is Tea and Topics, in which we gather students in a low stress, community-based method to just dissect the news that's going on, because a lot of stuff can be stressful, overwhelming for students not knowing what's going on, and sort of having that low stress environment can be really helpful for motivating dialogue and discussion. As well, students have consistently demonstrated that they want to get involved with advocacy. They want to get in the streets doing the work to make change. So from that, we're often organizing contingents and doing poster making for various protests, whether that's in the Claremont area. We're lucky to live in an area that has people protesting for No Kings every Saturday on a corner just a mile from our campus. But we also do larger things on the actual No Kings Day, heading into LA to participate in ice out rallies and also organizing poster making in that way. And I think people really appreciate the space to make their voices heard and also have that be in a community-centered space, which is a lot less daunting than going to a protest by yourself. In that same vein, we've done a lot of connection with other organizations across the campuses. This has been super imperative to our success because we can often support other organizations' initiatives and then count on those organizations as allies that can support our initiatives. We've worked with the Environmental Justice Club called 5C at our school, delivering public comment on the Air Quality Board for better regulations around air quality issues in the Inland Empire, one of the most polluted areas in the nation, if not the state. As well, we've worked with the local housing justice organization, Inclusive Claremont, building networks that support fairer housing policies in Claremont. And from this, we're able to count on support and have allies across the campus that, while focusing on separate issues than the League of Women Voters is, are supporting us and can count on our members to show up for them, and thus we can count on their members to show up for us.
Yeah, thank you. So, one of the really big things that the Legion has been doing is outreach with a lot of other high schools. So, for example, we oversaw the formation of other League of Women Voters chapters or high school chapters in Etowanda and Los Osos, and we also have a partnership with Diamond Bar. And what that really shows to me is that youth are really wanting to get engaged. I think there's a common misconception that youth are just trying to sit back or don't have strong interest in politics, but we see that even in a time where a lot of youth, like for example, I'm 16 years old. A lot of youth don't have the ability to vote. They still want to help people who do have the ability to vote actually go out and vote. And that's why, like, partnering with organizations such as Vote 16 or other, like, really impactful voting movements such as Generation Vote, um, have really helped us in our efforts. So that was kind of a skip down to that last box there, but I'll continue where I was at. And part of what's also been really helpful in engaging our high school community is really emphasizing student talent. So what are you good at, and how can you use what you're good at to help make positive social change? So for example, we have computer science, prospective computer science majors in our high school who are working on a voter registration app to help that is very youth focused that would help clearly walk through people the steps of registering to vote and helping them find polling places near them. Secondly, we also are doing a homeroom curriculum as we have done in years past that helps educate youth on the process of voting. What else? We also are initiating a Visions of Democracy project, which will help students which encourages students to use their skills such as art or poetry and like really show why democracy and voting is important to them. So what I'm trying to say with all of this is that there is a broad aspect of how you can engage high schoolers, how you can engage college students. That isn't just registration, and that's something we've been really focused on, and it's something I think has worked exceptionally well in our community. That being said, voter registration has been a big part of what we have done as the Legion of Voters. We hold boothing events, information sessions, and school-based registration. Like we saw in that previous slide, we've registered over 1,000 voters, and a big part of that has been through organizations such as Lush, which our league actually helped us coordinate. So if you're a local league leader, I would very much recommend, and you are looking to have like a high school or a college chapter, very much I would recommend partnering with local civic-minded organizations to help host opportunities such as this one to help get your youth chapters on the right foot. And that kind of connects into that last one on skill development and partner organizations. Oftentimes, high schoolers have to learn a lot of the skills that really helps that we use in our voter registration and our voter advocacy. So, for example, these skills can be door knocking, canvassing, and interview skills. Some way we've learned this is by, driving out to Orange County to get trained in door knocking, or learning how to do interviews with legislators through Vote 411. But honestly, what this has really been for us is a really strong way to develop our schools and engage our communities. You also see we have Vote 16 on there. Part of how we were able to do that is by going to our local league and creating a committee, since Vote 16 fell under the protection of establishing and protecting voting rights. And so, if you are looking to do advocacy in that manner, it can be a very helpful way. And it's also something that helps ignite a lot of passion in youth voters. We can move on. Yes. Lovely.
So I wanted to take a chance to highlight what is so special about our league situation. We are lucky enough to be in Claremont, where we're able to work with the Claremont Legion of Voters as well as the local Mount Baldy chapter. So what this means is we're able to do partnerships on completely different levels. So when we're working with the high school, it could be helping them and then being inspired to work on efforts on the SAVE Act, or holding socials between their members and our members so that we can really build these relationships and better aid each other in further projects. At the local level, this can mean a variety of things. Going to national convention this year, helping them out with tabling at things like Village Venture, which is a community-based big festival in our local area. It can look like just socializing and getting to know league members at things like the yearly meeting. we're able to use this relationship and support each other in completely different ways. And because we're crossing across so many different communities, we're able to really bring in different perspectives from completely different age groups and people who ordinarily might not be coming in contact with one another. It's a really awesome way to work with different groups of people and get to know your community and engage in a much deeper way. So, getting into what things look like for the future. As our predecessors did, Alex and I are leaving for abroad. So, we have a new e-board coming in that will be taking over after us. We're very excited to have new people come into this kind of leadership role, pick up where we left off, and continue to deepen and strengthen these connections. Also, as we all know, midterms are coming up. We're really looking to get some good engagement here, get California voters active, and get people to mail in their ballots. It's a big issue here at college when everyone has to go through the absentee ballot process. We're able to aid and get people aware and know how to figure that whole process out. As Alex mentioned, coming up a week from today, we are holding a panel with two 5C professors to discuss Vote 16, the history of voting rights, and why now is the time for LA to adopt something of that nature. One super exciting event that we've been able to partner on is we're partnering with Pomona College as hosts of the gubernatorial debate here in California. It'll be held right here on our campus, and we have been given the opportunity to partner with both a watch party and a panel, and doing a lot of work to get people excited, engaged, and show up to become more civically educated. And lastly, we're planning on attending National Convention in Columbus, Ohio this summer. We're really looking forward to this opportunity to engage with greater leagues and strengthen our connections across organization.
Great. So, as we mentioned before, one of the holdbacks of the Legion has been that year-long retentions. One of the ways that we're solving for that is by introducing executive board shadowing positions. So what this basically means is that someone who is a grade below the person who is currently in the position will follow them throughout the year that they are doing the position. So this could be something like secretary. And for that example, they would help take notes during meetings so that they learn how to do these skills and thus are prepared to take on those roles when the current position either moves up or has to graduate. So that's something we're implementing for this year, and it's something we're very excited about. We've started getting a lot more people who are very interested and are very passionate, and so it's something that we're very excited to be implementing so that we can ensure that retention. Another thing that we're doing, similarly to the 5C League of Voters, we're having voter registration drives. How we've typically done it in the past is through our homeroom curriculums. So what this has looked like is we'll go into junior and senior classrooms, and we will show them a slideshow basically while the time that they're in their homerooms. And what this will be, we'll show them how to walk through the voting process, and then while they're actually in the classroom, we will get them registered to vote. So it's a very surefire way so that we can actually be with them. If they have any questions during the process, we can help them out. And it's worked very well in the past, and we plan to do it again this year for midterms. The next thing is we're going to keep expanding the League of Women Voters to nearby high schools. For example, we mentioned that partnership with Diamond Bar. We're looking to get a fully established high school chapter there. Additionally, we're trying to make sure that the chapters we've already established in Etowanda and Los Osos have strong resources in order to continue their work in ways that we've done ours. Secondly, we've mentioned those student engagements. Now we're trying to make them into actuality. So Project Turnout is that app we mentioned that would help youth register to vote and would walk them through the steps of the process. And then again, Visions of Democracy is using art to envision a better democracy. And it's an art exhibit that we're planning on having at the Garner House, which is our local league meeting place. So it's really just helping students see their work in action, and having that work make an impact is going to be our main goals for this next year. And then finally, we have our community and statewide issue advocacy. So this has a few separate prongs. Firstly, we've started advocating for protected bike lanes in our city, as there has been a lot of bike accidents in Claremont recently. It's actually, I believe, the fourth highest in Southern California. And then aside from that, we're also working on protecting voting rights, with new things such as the SAVE Act being very prominent. And then again, Vote 16, which has been a consistent point of advocacy for both chapters here. But really, what this just encapsulates is how we have been garnering a lot of ideas. Next year, we're really implementing them and putting them into action. It's something I'm very excited for, and I'm very glad that we get to partner with the League of Women Voters for this. And yeah, here are generally just some photos of us together. You can see us at the booth with our local league. The photo on the bottom left is from the Lush boothing. You can see how we have candy since that tends to attract people. And yeah, this is just generally how our collaboration have worked. We've been very close-knit as a community, and we're always working to extend that partnership.
All right, thank you to the Claremont Colleges and Claremont High School group, and we are going to move on to the San Francisco Youth Council, and we are running a little bit behind time, so please post questions in chat, and if folks can answer them in chat, that would be great. I know some of them probably will require actual verbal answers. But from San Francisco, we have Leah Mordechai, Callista Young, and Zoe Hahn. It'll take us a second to switch gears here.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Callista Learn. I'm a member and part of the League of Women Voters San Francisco's Youth Council, and I'm also joined by Leah and Zoe today. And yeah, next slide. Okay, so who are we? The mission is the League of Women Voters Youth Council. We are open to residents ages 14 to 22, and we meet every Tuesday, every week, and it's a 1-year term. And our goal is to help youth create civic education resources and lead voting projects focused on engaging other young voters. And we receive a lot of mentorship from the League of Women Voters San Francisco Council as well as at the state level. And our origin is that we tried for several years to outreach to high schools. Specifically, the League of Women Voters of San Francisco tried to reach out to other high schools, but it wasn't until Charlotte Dawson, who now goes to Stanford University, and she helped found the League of Women Voters San Francisco's Youth Council by reaching out to other high schools. Next slide.
So we're just gonna go over some of our like projects and partnerships that we've been working on. Next slide, please. So we have this podcast called District Voices, and essentially what we do is we go around, we like,
Zoe,
you
is
know.
it possible to fast forward to my slide because I have to leave soon?
Oh yeah, definitely. I
Is it
think
possible to go forward like 2 slides? Yeah. Uh, Hi everyone, I'm Leah. I'm the current co-chair of the League of Women Voters Youth Council. And I'm super excited for you guys to hear about some of our other projects that the full council takes on. But I want to take a moment to share a project that I worked on, was inspired by like the work we do with the league with my fellow co-chair Emily Gordetsky, who is not here right now. And this project is called Plain Policy, which is essentially an app that uses AI in a new way to simplify any ballot proposition or piece of legislation at the state level and the city and some city levels to a sixth or eighth grade reading level. And it does this by the AI is limited to only accessing directly the bill text. So it's actually doing the work of simplifying. It's not pulling from biased media sources. It's not pulling from, a comment made on Reddit. And so it's an app that is aimed to help voter education, making sure people know what they're voting on. And plain policy was presented to the San Francisco Department of Elections, and they kind of verified that it was nonpartisan and non-biased and accurate in the information it's giving voters about legislation. And I just wanted to share this tool with you all. Potentially, if any leagues or groups here want to collaborate, I would love to do that. Part of what we do is, presentations about voter education and also just, people using the app. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be in the chat, and now I'll turn it back to Zoe and Calista to talk about the other things that the Youth Council does.
Um, yeah, so that's actually a really cool project. And but like some of the projects that the entire league works on like is District Voices, like I said before, it's kind of like a podcast series where we reach out to elected officials. It started out kind of in like our local circle, but we've been able to expand out to, as you can see in the bottom picture, like statewide. So we interviewed Catherine Stefani, which is shown in the picture. We also interviewed Matt Haney, who is also a state assembly member, and Fiona Ma, who is our state treasurer. But like what we kind of do is we interview these elected officials and we try to get a sense of more their stories and how they came to be where they are now, and less so about like their political stances or beliefs. And we actually try to move away from that and find ways that youth can connect with the people who hold these positions of power in their communities. So we think that this is extremely important that youth are able to connect with the people that represent them. And yeah, you can find episodes of our podcast on YouTube with the link on the slides.
So yeah, continuing on our project that our youth council does is we do voter registration drives. We actually have a current partnership with Lush, and we've done several, and we're continuing to do one actually this weekend, which is exciting. And another thing we do is a lot of our youth on the youth council, we're all over different variety high schools in the district of San Francisco. So we actually table at our own high schools. In the picture, you can see Zoe actually is in the picture, and she tabled at her own high school, Lowell High School. And then I actually ran a voter registration drive today as well. And we also hold different workshops throughout the different high schools as ways to like help include youth to be feel more civically engaged.
You can check out like some of our work here on our socials, and we actually update it pretty frequently. You can see here that we've had a lot of emphasis on district voices recently, but there's also the voter registration drives we've been working on. And yeah, if you're just interested in our work, you can go ahead and check them out.
So for our youth council, for our struggles, we struggle a lot with constant retention of council members, just constantly having them show up to meetings. I think it's also because a lot of our youth council is high school students, so it's we meet every Tuesday, so that's a struggle. We also getting district officials to respond to their emails is a big struggle. But we constantly reach out and we always send follow-ups. And then also just motivation within our council. It's a lot balancing schoolwork and being on the youth council, but I think a lot of our board members do pretty good. And then our successes. So we have several different podcast episodes of District Voices, as you can see from the previous slides and as Zoe talked about. I think it's really great and it's a fun project to do. I like especially been included in it, and I had a lot of great times interviewing the district officials. And then having a set of committed members in the council. We have a lot. I think it's we have some actually from outside of San Francisco, so in like closer like regions. So it's just definitely sometimes a struggle to get outreach and like keeping that connection. And then continuing on with successes, we hold voter registration drives and partner with Lush. I think it's a huge accomplishment, and we've actually had some people pre-register to vote. And then, like I mentioned before, different tabling events at different high schools have been a great success, and we have a lot of fun doing that.
And so in the future, we kind of want to like, as like Callista, she like discussed some of the struggles that we have, and so we kind of want to get rid of them. So we want to like hold more voter registration drives at San Francisco high schools, and this would help with outreach to our council, which is, as you can see there, C. which would help us like spread out the workload a little bit more. And with more people, we can definitely accomplish more things as a youth council, and we can keep growing district voices, which is a really important project that we're working on right now. And we've just started like expanding outside of San Francisco, and we hope that we can interview more people like on the state level and just like in different regions for a wider perspective and just bring district voices to a kind of wider audience. And we also want to solidify more board rules. So this would like help us with the spread of workload, right? Like kind of a specification on what each person is doing so that it's less like, oh, this specific group of people is doing all of the work and more that everyone is contributing a little bit more. And yeah, we kind of just want to bring this structure to our council. And we think that it would bring us a lot of success in the future.
All right, thank you to the League of Women Voters of San Francisco Youth Council for your presentation. And now we are going to move on to our final group of young people, which is the League of Women Voters of California Youth Circle. And I hope I have this correct, but I think the presenters are Eva Levinson, Ginger Gardner, Hanny Cho, and Annabelle Brusky may chime in a little bit for some of the questions for this group also. She's in the Claremont High School group and also part of the Youth Circle Steering Committee.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ginger Gardner. I'm a third year at UCLA, but I'm part of the League of Women's Voters of Piedmont as well. I'm currently sick, so I will be taking this from in bed and I'm going to keep my camera off, but I'm here presenting with, I'm pretty sure it's just Eva today as well. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eva. I'm a senior at Berkeley High School, and I'm on the board of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, and Emeryville.
Alrighty, so talking a bit about our founding to start off, we are very, very new compared to the two groups that just spoke before us. So don't expect to see the same movement here. But our initiative began in January of 2026, so just a few months ago. And it started kind of as this collaborative idea between Laurel and myself. So, League of Women's Voters California Youth Circle was created in hopes of bringing together politically driven individuals aged 16 to 22 or maybe 14 to 22 to encompass all of high school who will work towards increasing California's youth participation in democracy and just general attitudes towards politics. So it's pretty much just a group of California youth who's incredibly passionate about making a difference and getting involved with politics. So our current leadership has Annabelle and Eva as our co-presidents, myself as the head of our outreach committee, and Hanny as the head of our social media committee, which we will dive into a bit more what each of those roles entails.
All right, so our initial goals. We had in our first meeting a lot of brainstorming sessions, and we came up with 3 things that we wanted to focus on: youth voter registration, creating local youth councils and clubs, and connecting resources, info, and action across the state. So, a big thing that we heard from several of the people who joined us for our first few meetings was that they wanted support in creating voter registration materials and doing so in their local high schools or colleges. They also wanted help in creating those local youth councils and clubs. And so, we wanted to create like clear pathways for doing this and connecting all of those resources and action info that we have for the League of Women Voters across the state and making it easy and accessible for youth. Moving on to our social media committee, we were hoping to create and begin utilizing our Instagram account, make and share flyers promoting the league participation and interest in our youth council, and potentially even start doing a newsletter. And then in our outreach committee, we were hoping to connect with even more nonpartisan youth groups across California to share our initiative and get support, communicate with high school and college age individuals in order to increase awareness and membership, and then partnering with other groups to host events, statewide panels, or canvassing for ballot measures. A big thing that people were interested in participating again was like action events, so protests, canvassing, and all of that. And so we're hoping to do that in the future. Next slide. Yeah. So what we've accomplished so far, as I said in the previous slide, our big ideas, we had, a few brainstorming meetings, was the youth registration, creating local youth councils and clubs, and connecting resources and action across the state. So far we've created two committees, our outreach committee, which is headed by Ginger, and our social media and marketing committee led by Hani. So we've had one committee meeting so far. In our first outreach committee meeting, we created an interest form and a contact form. So the interest form, of course, is just for people who might be interested in joining the California Youth Council to fill out and tell us, what they want support in, what they're excited about, all of that. And then the contact form, which I will be sharing in a few slides, was to help us create a sort of like link tree of different people and organizations who might want to partner with us in the future that we could reach out to support in those voter registration efforts and in those council and club creation efforts. And then we've established liaisons for college and high school age youth. So again, trying to connect across, our age, like all youth, including high school and college, to try to make as big of an impact as we can as the California Youth Council or Circle. And then for our social media and marketing team, we have made our Instagram, and we're almost ready to make our first post. We saw a great draft just before this meeting, so I'm really excited to see that happen and to, again, connect with youth across the media in which we use the most.
Yeah, so talking a bit about our successes and our struggles, I'm very sorry if you hear traffic. I live on a very busy street in Los Angeles, so that is why. But for our successes, we've created a board coalition from high schoolers to adult, or sorry, a broad coalition from high schoolers to adults. We have quite a few people right now aging from, I believe it's sophomores in high school to seniors in college. So it's a really wide range of people, all who are very passionate. So it's been really incredible to see all of us come together. A success that we have are we are entirely youth led and focused. There's so many incredible people in the league, but our goal was to really have this circle be youth centric and have us kind of take the lead, and do all of the big things. So we've been doing that entirely, and it's been really incredible. And another success is that we've created our two committees, which is great because one of our struggles that I'll talk about is retention and communication. It's been quite the struggle to, I suppose, keep a good amount of people in the loop constantly and have a consistent amount of people, showing up to meetings. I think the other two committees expressed a similar thing as well. I think it's tough because we're at that age where we are incredibly busy with school, so it's hard to find, meeting times that work for everyone. And another struggle we face is the remoteness and distance. So we are ranging from Southern California, where I live, all the way up to Northern California. So it makes the possibility of doing those in-person events a little bit more challenging. So we're going to have to adapt to that and decide whether we want to, meet in the middle or do our events more remotely. So just finding ways to bridge that gap between one another has been a bit of a struggle, but we are working it out. So yeah.
So we wanted to just thank you all. We have heard such incredible presentations, some, in like the insane amount of impact that these other youth organizations have made is really amazing. And we'd love to connect with you and bring some of you in. We have Annabelle on our leadership, but we'd love to connect with more of you. And yeah, like bring all the expertise together. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to use all the wonderful materials that you all have already created. And so here's the QR code to the contact form. Also, please feel free to reach out to me. We have my League of Women Voters email there, Eva Levinson at lwvbae.org. We have our Instagram on the bottom right corner at League of Women Voter, well, lwv.ca youth. And yeah, I was just so impressed by every other presentation, and I really hope to utilize your guys' learnings as we continue.
Thank you so much to all three groups for sharing everything you've done and everything you hope to do. It is, I have to say, like from this side of it, it's really inspiring. And am amazed by all that you have accomplished and by your energy in doing it. So we have about 15 minutes left for questions. I know a lot of them have been answered already in the chat, and before we do that, I realized I completely forgot to introduce myself at the top of the program. I introduced the program, but my name is Laurel Plimier, and I am with the League of Women Voters of Piedmont is my local league. It's up in the Bay Area, surrounded by Oakland, and then I am co-president of the League of Women Voters of California. And my co-president, Candia, I think is also here with us in the audience. So so please post questions if you still have some, and I will try to go through a little bit here and see if there's some that haven't been answered yet in our last few minutes. So a lot of people want copies of things, which I think has already been answered. We will provide the slides too. I can email a link to the slides and when I send the recording of the video. So one question is, can you describe in more detail your groups, and I think this was the Claremont group, your group's relationship with the local League of Women Voters chapter?
Yeah, I can start on this one. Um, so it does help that my mom is the president. I will admit that. But a lot of our relationship with the local league was born even before I joined the club. So one of the first things that happened is we got a seat on the board of directors. And that's a permanent seat for the president of our chapter of the Legion of Voters. And I believe also for the 5Cs chapters, but I'll let them explain more in depth their relationship. But what we do is that every year we request a budget from the League of Women Voters of our area. If they approve that budget, and then we get to use that to engage our local communities. We also engage in a lot in their events. We collaborate on a lot of events, and I think it's that collaboration that allows us to use a lot of the resources and networks that they already have in our own advocacy work. And so it's a very tight-knit relationship, which does help that we're in the same house, but also just in general of us being a very, very strong knit community with those existing positions. So if anyone here is thinking about creating a high school chapter or helping those in your community create a college chapter, high school chapter, I would very much recommend getting them a seat on the board so they can really be involved in those processes.
Laurel, can I just
Sure.
quickly
Yep.
chime in? So hi, Amanda Hollis-Bresky. I'm the current president of the Mount Baldy chapter, but I've been on the board since 2017. I just only recently became president. I guess if you're folks in the audience who are active in your own chapters and you're thinking about how to make inroads into your local colleges or high school, I would say try to connect with political science faculty. So I teach constitutional law. There are faculty at every college who's going to teach some version of that, or voting behavior, or elections. These are going to be folks who are interested in what we, the league, are doing anyway. And if you can build relationships with them, get them involved in your programming, maybe even bring them onto the board, then they're the natural person on that campus to become a faculty advisor to the League of Women Voters Club. And so I was the person on my campus who started the 5C League. And so it doesn't have to be somebody who's already engaged in your board, but just start brainstorming who you might know, because I think that really helps institutionalize and formalize the relationships as we've done here at the 5Cs.
Thank you. And the next question, and it's written for Claremont, but I think it applies to San Francisco too, because you both groups did voting registration. So did you use online registration when you did your homeroom voting registration, and for the San Francisco folks when you went to your high schools to register kids, or did you have paper forms available, or maybe both?
Um, I believe if Fiona is still on the Zoom, I'll let her answer this one because admittedly, this is my first official year in the chapter. So it was mostly Fiona who did a lot of the registration last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can take it from here. So that's a really great question. I'm super glad it's asked because I think it's really important that when we did our registration, we actually provided both. But what we actually emphasized was we emphasized the in-person ballots because a lot of students, it's a lot easier to track how many people are actually filling out these ballots. And also in our presentation slide, we actually created a step-by-step, each section by section, how to complete form. And we literally screenshotted like pictures of every single part of the ballot and had like a follow by step. So that way students can be the own ones filling in their information and have like a step-by-step follow through that we're able to kind of like lead them on through on the sides. But we also gave them a QR code if they were like more willing to do that aspect. If they already have a driver's license and they're able to like kind of speed run the process, we did make that an alternative process. We did largely emphasize the paper ballots. Yes, I see you have a question.
And I see, yeah, Eva has, did you want to add to this, Eva?
Oh, yeah, I thought I could chime in. Well, as the California Youth Council, we haven't registered people to vote. I have with my own club and with the league in other ways. And yeah, I just wanted to emphasize similarly, we offered the QR code and paper ballots. While it's easier to see how many paper ballots people fill out, or not ballots, like affidavits. It can be challenging if people don't know in advance the last four digits of their social security number. And so that's, something we always tell teachers in advance if we're going to register their class. Another thing I was noticing is that a lot of people don't actually know if they're registered. Like when you get your driver's license, there's like a click a box, do I want to pre-register or register to vote? But some people don't remember if they did that or not. So including that in part of your like registration slides, I found has been useful in the past.
Does anyone from San Francisco have anything to add on the voter registration front?
Yes, I definitely can add. So we do both as well. Definitely a lot of like youth, like high school students, they cater, like they lean towards online because it's more convenient. But we definitely try to emphasize ballot, and because of like our recent workshop that I have actually held like on past Tuesday, we got a lot of high school students to pre-register to the ballots and the paper version. So it's been definitely helpful, and it's definitely a fun experience.
All right, that is all the questions that I see in chat. If I missed anything, uh, I hope somebody will pipe up. I tried to read through everything, but it did look like most of them were answered already in chat. Actually, before I wrap up, because I do have a few things I want to say at the end, there was one question that's probably worth saying on the video. I know Annabelle typed an answer to it, but can you explain what's involved with Project Turnout?
Yes, of course. So, I can kind of just read off my answer too. So Product Turnout is an app that would like first help people check their voter registration status. And if they aren't yet registered, they would direct them through each step of the process in like a user-friendly, like youth-focused way. So it's very much like engaging. We had like had ideas of like including like video aspects or just like, moving graphics, things that would be engaging. But we also want to keep it simple and really quick and easy to do. So we'd likely not do video aspects, but it's still like a definitely in the brainstorming phase in that aspect, but the idea is definitely there. And then after that, after they are registered and after we have gotten them registered, the app would show them nearby polling places, help them with mail-in ballots if they prefer that way. And then also something we had an idea with of sending push notifications when there is an election in their area. So we found that a lot of times, we have a lot of people who are registered to vote, but they may not know if there's like a special election going on or if there's propositions or something along those lines. Like even a city election may go under the radar because there isn't as much news coverage. What these push notifications would do is make sure that people are actually checking their phones and then going to their nearby polling site, and actually showing up at the polls.
Thank you. And one final question, really quickly, if you can give some examples of local organizations. I think all of the groups talked about partnering with local organizations. Do you have examples you can share? Either type them in chat or just call them out.
For the San Francisco chapter, we've worked with Lush, and I think I mentioned that for our pre-registration to vote drives.
Yep. And
Yeah, some other ones we've gotten grants from Civics Unplugged in the past. We did a banner drop event against the SAVE Act with Generation Vote. And we've also partnered with issue advocacy groups like Vote 16. And typically, my only recommendation if you're starting that is get it approved as like a separate committee in your league thing and make sure it isn't going against the league's nonpartisanship. Make sure it falls under that banner. But generally, once you have that and it's like been approved by your local league, you're pretty much set. And then just in general, like there's a lot of different groups and areas that are very interested in voter registration. I know a lot of high schools, a lot of college chapters have one. I believe the 5Cs even have a separate voter registration group on campus that they sometimes partner with. So it's very much just like seeing who's in your community, going to things like city council meetings, seeing who you can meet. Um, because not every group will have a Lush and not every city will have a like Civic Unplugged or a Gen Vote near them, but it's very useful going out and just seeing who you can find.
thank
Yeah,
you. Go ahead.
I'll add on to that. I think what we've really found in the Claremont Colleges chapter is that partnering with other college organizations has been really helpful. For example, Bridge USA is a national organization that focuses on breaking down partisan divide over political issues, but they have local college chapters. We've gotten to do a lot of collaboration with them as well. I mentioned Inclusive Claremont, which is a branch of a housing accessibility advocacy network at Claremont. So I think having these local student-run organizations as well is really helpful to partner with because then you're working with other like-minded students who as well have similar schedules and similar timelines as you.
And I'm sure that holds true for high school students also. There are other clubs and organizations in your high school that are, groups of students with a certain identity and interest, and partnering with them, I'm sure, is equally useful. All right, I want to keep us on time. We are at 2 minutes before the top of the hour, and I want to thank all of our panelists for all of your work presenting today and all of the work that you regularly do in your communities. I hope that you take in some of the comments in chat here and what a difference you make and how inspiring you are. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined us in our audience. We will be sharing the recording of today's program on our listservs, and it will also be available on the California State League YouTube channel. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, please consider joining the League if you haven't already and donating a financial contribution to support our work in protecting voters and restoring democracy. Thank you all again for being here, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You're a credit to the league.
Thank you.